changes kind of go hand in hand with why we're making the change today, right? Which is that, you know, the stat people will spam me with, and Bren on Plat Chat already started last week, of saying Kaplan's a great coach. Why would you possibly replace Kaplan? He went to 6 of 7 of the last internationals. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Kaplan went to 6 of 7 internationals with Zekin as his duelist and John as his IGL. So when Kaplan came back from Paris, his solution to how the season ended was to want to replace Zekin as the duelist and to replace John as the IGL. That was not something we agreed with. And so we've had a process as an org for a very long time of how we interact with our coaches and our staff. Like Eric Ma and Charlie Lipsy we've been doing this together for a decade.
This is a little bit of tea.
And normally the way we process this is we kind of go back and forth and we come to a consensus of what a plan is and then implement the plan.
One thing people are saying in the chat is, didn't Zekin make the decision to leave at the end of his contract?
Okay, so let's just talk about how we got there.
Mm-hmm.
Champs was September. When did we get knocked out of Champs?
Was it end of September, October?
Yes, toward the end of September. Okay, so it was a month later that his contract was ending. We weren't trying to keep him to be our duelist. We never talked to him about it. So I'm saying I'm not how can you say I'm scapegoating the guy who made a decision? That is, by definition, the opposite of being a scapegoat is when you force your employer to do a decision they disagree with. That isn't scapegoating. That is taking responsibility for your mistakes. And then with John, he decided he didn't want John to be his IGL anymore. He and John had worked together for 4 years. So the problem you have is now the funny thing about people saying, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? So yeah, here was the issue we're faced with, right?
Don't let this distract you from the fact that
when our coach is adamant that these are the changes he wants to make, right? Are we supposed to just tell him? But he had the right contractually, which I'll never give again. He actually had the right to make the final say on roster.
Really? Is that a thing? I'm surprised. That's the thing for coaches. Is that normal?
Well, Tarek, I don't know if it is or was. It will never be for us. So any coach you'd like to interview with us, please know we will never give that again. Because that is what happened. So like John not being the IGL was 100% not coming from us. So everyone's asking the question, which is a great question to ask, which is John returning to be the IGL? Derek, ask me that question.
Is John returning to be the IGL?
Yes.
Damn, okay. So
part of the process with Ewok coming in as the coach was the conversation about what the direction was going to be and how we were going to move forward. And so now this is no fault of Caillou's, but he's like a rookie. And this is like a crazy high stress job to put him in. So when people say, well, your roster isn't any good, why are you blaming Kaplan? It's like, well, this was Kaplan's roster, not the one we wanted. And so the first thing that's happening is John is returning as IGL. And that is, as part of the conversations with Ewok and him joining us, was the first step in like getting this going again, was John returning to be the IGL.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, it's unfortunate for Caillou, but you have a guy. So now we're back to those stats, right? We have a guy who has an IGL, went to 6 of 7 internationals and won the first one he went to. He was in tier 1 that, like I said, there were 2 big decisions that we disagreed with that were made. So when we have our worst performance ever, like this is worse than 2023, right? You have to make a decision. So the issue always is, right? Do you wait and play it out, or do you start to make the change? And in 2023, we made the change early in the year and we won Madrid within 12 months of that change. And so at some point you just have no choice but to lean in to say, hey, so again, when you say Rob is doing the blame game, is a funny comment. Like The guy made 2 decisions we disagreed with. They were bad decisions. So you have to live with your bad decisions.
So I guess it came down to it being a decision between whether you trust things to get better by waiting out or making changes now and, going a different route. I guess that was the choice that had to be made.
And the problem is, right, since we disagreed with it
now
going
what? What do you
in,
mean?
right, it's then really hard to say, oh, I bet it's going to work out if we keep going with it.
Jonah P, I can ask chat if you guys have questions.
And so
I can ask.
I think that is the key here.
But it sounds like Caillou's out.
Yes, we will be doing trials starting Tuesday. But all that to say, yeah, this sucks. This is definitely not what we wanted to have happen, right? But you get to a place of saying, do we think this combination is going to work? And if the players themselves don't think it's going to work, then you're nowhere, right? Like this isn't like the players were saying, oh, we're on a roll here. Give us more time. This will work. That was definitely not the consensus of the team.
So it's not only, management stepping in, it's also a combination of the players' thoughts and opinions coming together.
Yes, no question. And so
I would hope so.
So that is the key. So now there are things I can and can't say about roster, mainly because you're required to have 5 players on your roster at all times. So there are roster moves we cannot make. There's highly likely to be 2 roster moves.
Really? It's highly likely to be 2 roster moves. So Caillou, and then there's a question mark next to it. Everyone's saying Tens. Is there any world Tens comes back to the team?
By the way, if you all want to manifest Tens returning, Tarek, you remember you did a whole thing with my players last year.
Which one?
What did I say? Who did I say was my favorite player?
Yeah, Tens.
Yeah, if Tens wants to play, he can show up anytime, knock on my door, and I will figure out a spot in the roster for him.
It's in his hands.
He just needs to walk in and say, Rob, I'm ready to go. I'm like, okay, guys, bad news, good news. It's great news for 4 of you, bad news for 1.
Okay,
or 5 of you. It's
answer.
Great news for the coach and his 4 teammates.
Yeah. What about Zelsis? No, I'm just kidding.
David. Oh, by the way, well, here's the thing I'll say about Zelsis, right? Because I love Jordan. Okay. I will agree with it. I will argue with anyone who will argue, our Masters Madrid win, Zelsis was a huge part of that. Okay. So I will always be loyal to Jordan / Celsius for his role in us having that major. Jordan's a huge part of that, right? But somehow after champs, the only 2 people that Kaplan was convinced he wanted to keep were Narrate and Celsius. If you watch the scrims after champs, right, for 3 weeks, VCT scrims and Tactical Rap kept saying, this is interesting. Narrate and Celsius are part of every stream. But once Caillou was going to be the IGL, that it just felt like we had to have John's firepower and to keep John. And so that's when
time for the return, dude.
They're just
me, you, and
we had
Zoms.
to make a decision between John and Jordan.
Me, you, Zom, and Shanks.
Right at that point. And so the good news for Zelsis was that there was a spot open for Cloud9. Bad news for Mitch. Great news for Cloud9. And as you've seen, how John has played, John was the top rated player in the tournament. And so, John still has the mechanical gift he always had. And so he needs to, like I said, his calling and his leadership were a huge part of our success over the last 2 years. Can you ask if the players had a say? The players definitely did not believe we were on a path to win a major. The players agreed we needed to make changes.